let's talk about metering. Welcome to this tutorial series about metering. This is one, and there's going to be others about other types of metering. Today we're tackling loudness metering with the Youlean Loudness Meter 2 Beta. This is available for free. Huge thanks to the guys at Youlean. It's a wonderful plugin, and you can take that into your workflow right now, and I'm going to show you how and why you want to meter with this plugin. The purpose of this video is not to go into depth into this plugin and to geek out about all those values, because there's a lot of stuff to geek about, because this plugin is very precise and it's going to show you a lot of things. We're going to focus on something really simple, which is the loudness units. This plugin is going to show you in values how loud your music is. In fact, we're going to use this plugin, but we're also going to use another meter, and it's an organic one, and you all have it. It's your here. It's the very big. Even before, looking at some values, looking at metering stuff, we're going to use our ear, because that's the very basic thing you need to start with. Let's take a quick look on the plugin. I'm going to show you what we're going to focus on. First is the short term. It's showing you how loud your music is at the very moment you are metering it. This value is changing fast, because it's really a short term. So it's always changing. The integrated value is going to be taken over a slightly longer time period. And you have these values here, but you don't really need to geek into these. Even the loudness range, it's cool to have it, but if you really want to start just implementing that into your workflow and do a simple but effective metering, you can just stay with the short term and integrated. Also, you can take a look at the momentary max. The highest value that has ever been registered on that sequence is going to be your momentary max. You also have a true peak max value. Difference between a normal peak and true peak, it's true peak takes in account the possible conversion between different formats. Let's say you have a peak value of 0 on a file, and it goes through different conversion and everything. It's quite possible that it's going to end up higher than that. So the true peak takes in account all those alterations that could be done. If you have your file capped at a true peak maximum, you're gonna be sure that you're never gonna have problem with your file after conversion and stuff. But we're not gonna focus on true peaks today, because that's more of a mastering concept, and today I really just wanna stick at the large concept of metering your tracks. Now I want to reference the track I did with a reference track. So you need to choose a track that you're going to be referencing, and you need to choose a track that has a professional quality, because if you choose your cousin's track that did it in GarageBand, that's not quite loud, well, it's not going to do it. In fact, just look at the quality that you want to achieve, some labels that you like, that you respect, some artists that you respect, and you know that what they put out is of professional quality, so you select that. I chose Symbolic and Eclipse Live Your Life, the Audio Tech remix. It's out on Tech Safari Records, and I would say the Symbolic music, Eclipse Audio Tech, it's pretty much what I reference, because it's in the side trance, it's something really technically really advanced, and so that's what I reference. Sounds like this. We are getting some values at the moment, and this is the track I did, and I'm gonna reference it with this track. So super simple setup. I just drag the files, and I can solo by right clicking from one track to another, and this is how my tracks sound. Even before jumping into the actual plugin, what you will need to do is select a section that has a similar loudness. What I mean by that is I'm not gonna compare this section with this one. This one is an introduction, and the other one is a quite already loud part. If you're referencing, let's say, some dubstep, well, you're gonna take the drop of one track and you're gonna reference the drop of another track. That might sound logic, but make sure you take that into account. Some genre like dubstep, it's quite easy to know where the drop is, but in more like progressive genre, let's say psytrance, there's some part that has more energy and some part that has less energy. Just make sure you are referencing a part of the track that has a similar momentum. Before even jumping into the plugin, let's check with our ear. Sometimes you're gonna switch to the tracks and you're already gonna hear that it does not sound quite as loud. So we're gonna check that. So I don't hear any gap of loudness between the tracks. I hear the dynamics and stereo image is not quite the same, so that's something I noticed. That's not what we're going to focus on today, but there's other meters that can help us get some values on that. But like I said, you hear your organic meter, and it should be the first one you use. But since we are focusing on loudness today, I don't hear any obvious problem with the loudness. So now let's get some real values of loudness, starting with symbolic. I'm gonna refresh that and get some values. Let's get some values for the other track. Make sure you hit that refresh button so you start from scratch. So we stand between 7.2 loudness unit. So we know that the track is in the ballpark of the loudness. In terms of value, it's even a bit louder, but just remember that louder doesn't necessarily equal better. You still want to maintain dynamics and not, just squash your track into a limiter. Good, so now we have a good comparison. We know the track are in the same ballpark of loudness. What to do? Let's say you compare your track and yours is not in the same ballpark of loudness. Well, the answer is not quite a simple answer, but for sure, loudness is mostly, it's not all about it, but it's mostly about the mastering process. The mastering engineer is gonna get your track as loud as a professional track, but it's not only about the mastering. There's other stuff you can do to make your track louder earlier in your process, and managing the dynamics is also quite a big deal of it. I feel it's hard for me to provide you with a small answer and really simple answer about what to do, especially with a small format, because this would mean you need to investigate on a couple of things. A good starting point would be, who did your mastering? Is it a mastering engineer or it's you? If it's you, good news, because you can learn. Now you need that your track is not as loud, and you need to work on your mastering to get it as loud as possible as your reference, but without sacrificing the dynamics. If it's a mastering engineer that mastered your track and you provided him with that track and it is not as loud, well, you have a problem. You might want to have a discussion with your mastering engineer. Like I said, it's not as easy as providing you with a super simple answer, because realizing that your track is not loud enough is like opening a Pandora's box. There's a couple of things you need to check. Also, loudness is not the ultimate value in the end, and don't forget to trust your ear. But to start referencing tracks, if you're not doing it already, it's gonna be the most depressing thing you're gonna do in your music production career, but also it's gonna be the most useful thing you're gonna do. Because at first, you start referencing, you just even without any meter, you just compare tracks, and then you realize some problems. And honestly, it at first maybe rough. It's gonna be a bit depressing for you. But now you know you need to work towards that goal, and you're gonna get better. Also, making sure you really get the point that if you're gonna reference loudness, you need to reference a track that is in the mastered state with the professional track. Because if it's not mastered, of course it's not gonna sound as loud. Just make sure you're comparing apples with apples, you know. So that was it for loudness metering. I strongly recommend that you start referencing your tracks even first without the meter, and then slap in that beautiful meter and verify some values and start learning. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials by myself or other Ghost Act producers. Also, stay tuned because there's more metering tutorials coming in, and I wish you happy metering.